Before we begin, I want to say hello and introduce myself. My name is Father Benjamin Leonard. I'm a pastor of St. Joseph's. I spent my first 2 years here as a priest, so a lot of familiar faces. I'm glad to be back with you today. Bishop Noonan joins us today to pray for Berta and the repose of her soul, and for all those who are in mourning. I'm going to introduce someone who you already know, is Chris, Berta's son. He's going to offer some words about his mother.
You got it. If I fall on my face, come get me. I'd like to thank everyone for coming this morning to honor my mother. Thank you, Father Benjamin, for celebrating with us. Father Lawrence, Deacon Pete, the choir, and our surprise friend, Bishop Noonan. Thank you so much. First off, I want to say that I have a carefully guarded reputation of being a schmuck. Might get in trouble for using that word, but I might deviate from that a bit here, okay? I was about 8 years old. My dad was driving us down Malin Avenue to lunch after Mass at Mary Mag, and we passed a cosmetic surgeon's office, and I don't believe she was being all that serious, but my mom started in with saying, "Hey, Pete, I think I'm going to go in and get a tummy tuck. Maybe a lift here, a tightening there." I remember being in the back of the seat, taking all this in and getting more and more concerned the more she went on. And I guess as a kid, you just don't want to hear that kind of stuff from your mom. And I said to her, I leaned forward and said, "Hey, Mom, you don't really want to do all that stuff, do you?" She said, "Why not, Chris? Don't you want your mom to be beautiful?" I mulled that over for a bit, and I said, "Mom, if God had wanted you beautiful, he'd have made you beautiful." What I didn't realize is I was taking my life into my own hands. No, not because she was going to do something. It's because my father nearly wrecked the car. Over the years, I developed a relationship with her that I could tease with her pretty intensely, and I could make her laugh hard. Looking back, I realized that most of these stories don't translate well for Eulogy. I got away with it because she knew I loved her. I'll share one more random story. I was the baby of the family, and let's just say she kept pretty close tabs on me. And then I went to college, not just any college. I went to the University of Florida in 1986, and we had just been voted top party school in the United States. My father said, "I thought you wanted to go to college, son." I was having a good time that first semester. I came home with what I like to call a fun .0. And I was lying there watching TV during Christmas break. My mom was emotional, her baby was away, and she came up to me and I was lying on the couch, she's rubbing my hair, and she said, "You know, every night I lie there and I wonder where you are." And I looked up at her and said, "Me too, Mom." All right, now for some background. Am I on a time limit at all? I'll get through this quickly. All right, I'll get through it. Okay. All right, now for some background. She was born October 9th, 1933 in Indianapolis. She never knew her father, and her mother was killed by a drunk driver when she was 18, and that woman struggled. At a young age, she learned to work hard to get by. But it wasn't all work. She did have some fun. She loved dancing and live theater. Later in life, she got us tickets to the Broadway series when it was introduced here in Orlando in 1979, and I was her theater buddy. Her favorite show is Les Mis, and we saw it together 4 times. She always talked about when she was a kid going to the local, there was an elk or moose lodge, and she went to their dances every Friday or Saturday night. She learned to dance well, and she danced in front of Tony Bennett, Perry Como, Bing Crosby, Tommy Dorsey, and Frank Sinatra, and apparently Frank gave her a kiss. There were times when she would get up and play the snare drum with the band. She took this love of music and dance and ended up with Arthur Murray. No, not the name on the dance studio, the man Arthur Murray and his wife Catherine. She went to New York City, she danced on TV, the Arthur Murray Party, it's on YouTube. You can see it. We haven't figured out which one's my mom. In the middle of dementia, we had it on, and she went, "Oh, it's Catherine," and that's who. And I'm like, "Oh my God, maybe we should have done this earlier." I don't know. Along the way, she had my sister and brother, Karen and George. She was lucky in dance, but not in love. She was abandoned with 2 young kids in St. Louis. No money. Scraped together some dollars and took the train to Florida to start over. She had some family there. She began working as a candy striper, Venice Hospital. The nurses there took her and Karen and George under their wing. She fell in love with nursing, and Madge and Dorothy became lifelong friends. This woman, who did not finish 8th grade, ultimately went to night school and got her nursing degree. And along the way, she poured all that love she had in her soul to all of her patients. Her mother used to sing to her, "You are my sunshine," and this is what she sang to her patients every night over the speaker. She would get them food when they couldn't stomach the hospital food. She would bring in pets for dying patients so they could have a last little moment with their pets. One of her favorite stories was taking care of Luke Halpern, the child star of Flipper. He was in there for weeks. She left nursing behind to raise me, but nursing didn't leave her. I personally watched her save 3 people. Each has its own story, but the one that maybe is most remarkable, I watched her jump in the pool and pull a kid out that was drowning. He was at the bottom of the pool, brought him to the side, pumped water out of his chest, breathed life back into him. And the best part of that story is she didn't swim, and she was terrified of water. 1967, a friend of hers set her up on a date with Berta Halpern. Apparently, her nurse friend Dorothy had a crush on him, but Dorothy was too afraid to date him. My mother was not. And they couldn't have come, my mom and dad could not have come from more different worlds. My mom, a poor girl from Indianapolis that didn't have much privilege starting out in life. My father, born and raised in New York City, the son of a very successful instrumentation manufacturer. My dad had degrees in physics and electrical engineering and mathematics. He had an IQ off the charts and a national resource for the 3-letter agencies. But you know what they had in common? Their faith. Both had very faithful Catholic aunts. Both decided they wanted to convert when they were young teenagers. My father's path to conversion involved syllogisms and proofs, church fathers and apologetics. My mom's, she said she just fell in love with the Lord and his church, and she always trusted. But they ended up at the same place. I got to see my father, who I knew had an intellect greater than anyone I will meet on this earth, bow his head every day. And he said he was obligated. He said he saw the design, and he knew the designer was in love with him. And my mom and dad were in love with each other. My father was fiercely protective of her. In 1990, don't hit the gong. I'm almost done, Father. Okay. In 1990, my dad got very sick. He lost his foot and then most of his leg. My mom struggled to take care of him. When I graduated from UF in December of 1991, and yes, I did graduate, I had no intentions to move back home. But when I got back from Gainesville, I saw how much my mom was working, how much she struggled, and I knew I had to stay. She never complained, not one time. I spent the next 3 years helping them. I would help my dad get his leg on, get him dressed every morning, get him breakfast, get him set up in his office so he could go work, and I would drive down to Martin Marietta and work. I'd come back and repeat the process. 3 years. But I don't want you to feel too sorry for me, because every Wednesday night I went to nickel beer, and I don't think I missed one. He passed away in November of 1994. It's the last page, Father. August 2020, near the beginning of COVID, my mom had sudden onset dementia. Overnight, she went from being a self-reliant, extremely socially active person living and driving on her own to being completely helpless. It was a rapid transition. Emily and I had to figure out and navigate the new normal. I really never wanted my mom to go into a facility unless it became absolutely necessary. Now, granted, me and Emily have jobs that we a little bit of flexibility. So I understand it can't work for everybody. We had a lot of people telling us she should go into a facility. But we decided if we could make it work, we were going to keep her at home, and we were going to try. And we had a lot of help. Emily became her pharmacist and her doctor buddy. I coordinated all the help from her friends. My brother George is a big part of this. He went through his own health scare. But we did it. 3+ years, and we did it. In the end, she passed away at home, listening to big band music, mass hymns, and surrounded by her loved ones. Mission accomplished. My final word to you this morning is if you have an opportunity to serve another person, do it. Don't talk about it. Don't meet about it. Just do it. And remember the words from our favorite play, to love another person is to see the face of God. Thank you.